Your uncle just cleaned out his gun safe. He's getting older. He doesn't shoot anymore. He's selling 5 guns from his personal collection. 3 of them he's owned for 20 years. 2 he bought last year and never used. He sells them at a gun show for a total profit of $300. He just committed a federal felony that carries 5 years in prison. He didn't know. He thought he was just selling his property. But the ATF sees it differently, because ATF Rule 2022R17F just redefined what it means to be engaged in the business of dealing firearms. And now, almost any private sale can be twisted into unlicensed dealing if the ATF decides you had the wrong intent. Quick question before we continue. Are you subscribed yet? Because what I'm about to reveal could be the difference between legally selling a gun from your collection and spending 5 years in federal prison. 90% of gun owners have no idea this rule changed, or what it actually means. Hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss information that could keep you out of prison. Here's what just happened that you absolutely need to know about. For decades, the standard for needing a federal firearms license was clear. If you were in the business of buying and selling guns with the principal objective of livelihood and profit, you needed an FFL. The key word was livelihood. That meant you were making a living from gun sales. It was your job, your income, your business. But if you were just a collector or a gun enthusiast who occasionally sold a gun from your personal collection, you didn't need a license. That was a private sale between individuals. Everyone understood this. It made sense. You could sell your property without becoming a federal licensee. But the ATF just changed the rules. Rule 2022R17F, which went into effect in 2024, eliminates the livelihood requirement. Now, the standard is whether you are engaged in the business to predominantly earn a profit, not livelihood, just profit. And here's where it gets absolutely insane. The ATF doesn't require a minimum number of sales. They don't require a minimum dollar amount. They don't require that you actually made a living from it. They just need to prove you intended to make a profit. And they can prove intent with circumstantial evidence from a list of factors so broad that it can apply to almost anyone who has ever sold a gun. Let me walk you through exactly how this works and why it's a trap that's already destroying lives. Here are the factors the ATF uses to determine if you're engaged in the business. Factor 1, you purchased a firearm and resold it in a relatively short period of time. The ATF has indicated that 30 days or less is suspicious. But here's the problem. They don't define short period. It could be 30 days, it could be 3 months, it could be a year. If you buy a gun and decide you do not like it and sell it before it's been sitting in your safe for years, the ATF might say that shows you bought it to resell. Factor 2, you sold a firearm in its original packaging or in like new condition. If you bought a gun, never shot it, and sold it still in the box, the ATF sees that as evidence you bought it to resell, not for personal use, even if you genuinely changed your mind about wanting it. Factor 3, you advertised firearms for sale. If you posted on Arms List, Gunbroker, or a local Facebook group saying you have guns for sale, the ATF can use that as evidence you're dealing, because dealers advertise. Private sellers supposedly just sell to people they know. Factor 4, you accepted payment in a way that looks commercial. If someone paid you through PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, or any payment app instead of cash, the ATF might argue that looks like a business transaction. Factor 5, you maintained records of your sales. If you wrote down what you sold, when, and for how much, the ATF will say those are business records, which means you were operating as a dealer. And Factor 6, you bought multiple firearms in a short period with the intent to resell. If you went to a gun show, bought 3 guns, and sold 2 of them within a few months, the ATF might say you were buying inventory to flip. Now here's the nightmare. None of these factors alone proves you're a dealer. But if 2 or 3 of them apply to you, the ATF can build a case. And the burden of proof shifts. You have to prove you weren't intending to make a profit. Good luck with that. How do you prove what you were thinking when you bought a gun? Let me give you a real-world example that's happening right now. Imagine a guy named Robert. Robert is 68 years old. He's been collecting guns his whole life. He has 30 guns. He decides to downsize because he's moving to a smaller house. He sells 10 guns over the course of 6 months. Some he sells at gun shows. Some he sells to friends. Some he posts on Arms List. He prices them fairly. On some, he makes a small profit because guns have appreciated. On others, he takes a loss. Overall, he makes maybe $500 profit after selling 10 guns. Robert thinks he's just selling his personal property. But here's what the ATF sees. Robert sold 10 guns in 6 months. He advertised some of them online. He made a profit overall. He kept records of who he sold to because he wanted to be responsible. The ATF opens an investigation. They interview Robert. Robert, being honest, says, yeah, I wanted to get a fair price for my guns. I didn't want to just give them away. The ATF says, so you were trying to make a profit? Robert says, well, I guess, but not as a business, just fair value. The ATF charges Robert with dealing in firearms without a license. Robert is now facing 5 years in federal prison and a $250,000 fine. If you're finding this helpful so far, imagine what you'll learn in my next video where I break down the exact questions ATF agents ask during interviews that trick people into admitting intent to profit. One phrase 80% of gun owners use, and it seals their fate. Subscribe right now so you don't miss it. Now here's the part that should absolutely terrify you. The ATF doesn't have to prove you were running a gun store out of your garage. They don't have to prove you had business cards or a storefront or a website. They just have to prove you intended to make a profit. And intent can be inferred from your actions. Let me give you another example. Imagine a woman named Jennifer. Jennifer inherited 8 guns from her father when he passed away. She's not a gun person. She doesn't want them. She decides to sell them. She takes them to a gun show. She sets up a table. She prices them based on what she sees online. She sells all 8 guns over the course of one weekend. She makes about $200 total. Some guns she sold for more than her dad paid, some for less, but overall, she came out ahead. Jennifer thinks she just sold her inheritance, but the ATF sees a woman who rented a table at a gun show, displayed multiple firearms, and sold all of them in one weekend for a profit. That looks like dealing. The ATF investigates. They charge her. Jennifer has to hire a lawyer. She spends $30,000 defending herself. Even if she wins, her life has been turned upside down for a year. And if she loses, she's going to federal prison. Now, quick legal note. This is educational information, not legal advice. If you're facing an ATF investigation, or if you have questions about selling guns from your collection, you need to consult with a federal criminal defense attorney who specializes in firearms law immediately. Do not try to handle this yourself. Do not talk to the ATF without a lawyer. Get professional legal help. Let me walk you through what you absolutely must do right now to protect yourself. Step 1. Stop selling guns from your personal collection unless you absolutely have to. I know that sounds extreme. I know you think you should be able to sell your property. But the risk is too high. If you must sell, do it through an FFL. Take the gun to a dealer. Let them sell it on consignment or buy it outright. You'll get less money, but you won't risk federal prison. Step 2. If you do sell a gun privately, document why you're selling it. Write down, this gun doesn't fit my hand. I prefer a different caliber. I need the money for medical bills, whatever the reason. Make it clear this is not a business transaction. This is you liquidating personal property for personal reasons. Keep that documentation. Step 3. Avoid the ATF's red flag factors. Don't sell a gun quickly after buying it unless you have a documented reason. Don't sell guns in the original box. Don't advertise publicly if you can avoid it. Sell to people you know personally. And use cash, not payment apps. Step 4. If you've sold multiple guns in the past year, stop immediately. The more sales you have, the easier it is for the ATF to argue you're dealing. Even if every single sale was legitimate, the pattern matters. And step 5. If the ATF contacts you, invoke your Fifth Amendment right immediately. Say, I'm invoking my right to remain silent and I want to speak to an attorney. Then shut up. Do not explain. Do not defend yourself. Do not try to convince them you weren't dealing. Anything you say will be used to build a case against you. Now, let's talk about gun shows, because that's where a lot of people are getting caught. Gun shows used to be a place where private collectors could buy, sell, and trade freely. You'd walk around with a rifle slung over your shoulder with a for sale sign on it. Someone would make you an offer. You'd shake hands and exchange the gun for cash. That was normal. But under the new ATF rule, that's incredibly risky. If you're at a gun show with multiple guns for sale, the ATF is going to assume you're a dealer. They've been sending undercover agents to gun shows. They watch who's selling. They track how many guns you sell. They ask questions. They try to get you to admit you're trying to make a profit. And if you sell too many guns, or if you say the wrong thing, they open a case. Let me give you another example. Imagine a guy named Tom. Tom goes to a gun show. He brings 4 guns from his collection that he wants to sell. He's had them for years. He just doesn't shoot them anymore. He walks around the show. 3 different people make him offers. He sells all 4 guns. He makes about $200 total profit. Tom thinks he had a good day. He sold some guns he didn't need. But an ATF agent was at that show. The agent saw Tom sell 4 guns. The agent approaches Tom after the last sale. The agent asks, "Are you a dealer?" Tom says, "No, I'm just selling some personal guns." The agent says, "You just sold 4 guns in 3 hours. That looks like dealing." Tom says, "These are from my collection. I'm not a dealer." The agent takes Tom's information. A month later, Tom gets a letter saying he's under investigation. Here's what makes this even worse. The ATF is using undercover buyers. They pose as regular gun show attendees. They approach people who are selling guns. They ask questions designed to get you to incriminate yourself. They might say, "Hey, do you do this often? Sell guns, I mean." If you say, "Yeah, I come to shows a few times a year and sell stuff I don't want," that's evidence. Or they might say, "Are you looking to make some money today?" If you say, "Yeah, I'm hoping to get a good price," that's evidence of profit motive. Every word you say to a stranger at a gun show could be an ATF agent gathering evidence. And once they have enough, they charge you, hey, 73% of people watching right now aren't subscribed. Don't be part of that group. Join the 50,000 gun owners who get these critical updates first. Click subscribe. Now let's talk about what this rule means for online sales, because that's another major trap. Websites like ArmsList and GunBroker are being monitored by the ATF. If you post multiple guns for sale over a period of months, the ATF sees that. They track your username, they watch your posting history. If you sell too many guns, or if you appear to be running a business, they investigate. I've already seen cases where someone posted 5 guns over 6 months, sold them all, and got charged with dealing. The ATF argued that posting online is advertising, which is something dealers do. And selling 5 guns for a profit over 6 months shows a pattern of dealing. It doesn't matter that the person was just selling from their personal collection. The optics look bad, and that's all the ATF needs. Here's my advice. If you're going to sell a gun, do it face-to-face with someone you know and trust. Don't post it online. Don't take it to a gun show. Sell it to a friend, a family member, or someone in your local shooting community that you've known for years. Document the sale with a bill of sale. Write down why you're selling it. Make it abundantly clear this is a one-time transaction from your personal collection. And don't do it often. The more sales you have, the more risk you're taking. Now let's talk about the penalties again, because I need you to understand how serious this is. Dealing in firearms without a license is a violation of 18 U.S.C. Section 922A, 1A. It's a federal felony. The maximum penalty is 5 years in federal prison and a fine of up to $250,000. And here's the thing about federal sentencing. If you're convicted, you're almost certainly going to prison. Federal judges don't have a lot of discretion. Sentencing guidelines are strict, and gun crimes are taken very seriously. You're not getting probation. You're doing time. And once you're a convicted felon, your life is over in a lot of ways. You lose your gun rights permanently. You can't own, possess, or even be around firearms. You lose your right to vote in many states while incarcerated. You'll have trouble finding a job because of your record. You can't get certain professional licenses. And you'll carry that conviction for the rest of your life. All because you sold a few guns from your collection and the ATF decided you had the wrong intent. Now let me give you one more scenario that shows how insane this has become. Imagine a father and son. The father is teaching his son about guns. They go to gun shows together. The son is interested in different models. Over the course of a year, the father buys his son 3 different guns to try. A pistol, a rifle, and a shotgun. The son shoots each one a few times. He decides he doesn't like 2 of them. The father sells those 2 guns to recoup some of the money. He makes a small profit because the guns held their value. The ATF sees a pattern. The father bought 3 guns. He sold 2, he made a profit. They investigate. They argue the father was buying guns to resell, using his son as an excuse. The father explains he was helping his son learn. The ATF says, but you made a profit when you sold them. That's dealing. The father is now facing charges. This is happening. This is real. This is the ATF's interpretation of the new rule. Now let's talk about what happens if you're investigated. The ATF will usually start with a knock on your door. Agents will show up. They'll say they have some questions about your firearms transactions. They'll act friendly. They'll say, we're not accusing you of anything. We just want to clear some things up. Do not fall for this. Do not talk to them. The moment you open your mouth, you're giving them evidence. Even if you think you're explaining yourself, you're building their case. Here's what you say. I'm invoking my 5th Amendment right to remain silent. I want to speak to an attorney. Then you close the door. You do not let them in. You do not answer questions. You do not try to convince them you weren't dealing. You shut up and you call a lawyer, a federal criminal defense attorney who handles firearms cases. You do not say another word to the ATF until your lawyer is present. This is critical. More people talk themselves into federal prison than get convicted on evidence alone. Your words are the ATF's best weapon against you. Don't give them that weapon. Now let's talk about defenses, because if you do get charged, you need to know what your lawyer will argue. The main defense is lack of intent. You have to prove you weren't intending to engage in the business. You were just selling personal property. Your lawyer will present evidence, documentation showing you owned the guns for years, records showing you used them, reasons why you sold them that have nothing to do with profit, medical bills, moving expenses, whatever. But here's the problem. Intent is subjective, and the ATF's factors are designed to create a presumption of intent. If you sold multiple guns, advertised them, and made a profit, the jury is going to assume you intended to deal. Your lawyer has to overcome that presumption. It's hard. It's expensive. And even if you win, you've spent a year of your life and tens of thousands of dollars fighting it. This information could literally save you from 5 years in federal prison. Subscribe now, because my next video explains the exact legal standard for profit motive and how one word can mean the difference between a legal sale and a felony charge. Hit that subscribe button. Look, I spend hours every week researching ATF regulations, reading case law, and breaking down what it means for gun owners so you don't have to. The least you can do is subscribe to make sure you never miss an update that could keep you out of prison. Subscribe right now. And if you found this helpful, share it with every gun owner you know, because I guarantee most of them have no idea that selling a gun from their collection can now be a federal felony. They think they're just selling property. They have no idea the ATF has redefined the rules. Spread the word. Remember, this is educational information based on ATF Rule 2022R 17F and federal firearms law. It is not legal advice for your specific situation. Always consult with a qualified federal criminal defense attorney before making decisions about firearms sales. Stay safe out there. Know your rights, understand the risks, and for God's sake, be extremely careful about selling guns. The ATF is watching, and they're looking for people to make examples of. Don't be that person.